Prologue. Anxiety is a tricky companion, an invisible weight that can bear down on even the brightest of days. For years, I felt like living in a fog, caught in a cycle of worry and self-doubt. It crept into every corner of my life, influencing my decisions, relationships, and even my dreams. Each time I tried to push it away, it clung to me tighter, whispering lies that kept me frozen in place. But what if I told you that I learned to lose my anxiety? Not by simply wishing it away or pretending it didn't exist, but by confronting it head-on and unraveling its hold on me. This journey wasn't easy. It took courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to explore the depths of my fears. Along the way, I discovered tools and strategies that helped me shift my perspective, embrace my true self, and ultimately reclaim my life. In these pages, I'll share my story of transformation, the insights I gained, and the practices that guided me. I hope to inspire you to embark on your journey toward freedom, showing you that while anxiety may try to define us, it doesn't have to control us. Together, let's uncover the path to peace, resilience, and a life fully lived. Welcome to my journey. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Understanding Limiting Beliefs. What are limiting beliefs? Limiting beliefs are thoughts or convictions about yourself, others, or the world that restrict your potential or ability to achieve your goals. These beliefs often develop over time due to past experiences, negative feedback, or societal conditioning. Some common examples of limiting beliefs include: I'm not smart enough to succeed. I'll never be able to do that. I'm too young for this. People like me don't get ahead in life. I don't deserve success. These beliefs can hinder personal growth, career advancement, and relationships by creating self-imposed barriers. Overcoming them requires recognizing their presence, challenging their validity, and reframing your thinking to adopt more empowering perspectives. At the heart of both limiting beliefs and anxiety are irrational, distorted thoughts that fuel negative emotions and behaviors. A crucial step in overcoming them is to challenge these thoughts and replace them with more balanced perspectives. Common cognitive distortions include catastrophizing, assuming the worst possible outcome will happen; black and white thinking, seeing situations in extremes without recognizing the middle ground; overgeneralization, viewing a single negative event as part of a never-ending pattern of failure. Identifying and challenging these distortions can break the cycle of limiting beliefs and help reduce anxiety, enabling you to move forward with confidence and clarity. How do you reprogram your brain? Reprogramming your brain to overcome limiting beliefs is like upgrading from an old, buggy operating system to a new, high-performance version. When you first install a new program, it works fine for a while, but eventually, you need to update it to the latest version. Sometimes, you even discover a newer and better app that surpasses what you've used before. In the same way, it's beneficial to periodically question the beliefs you hold. What was once true, perhaps when you were a child, may no longer apply. For example, many 6-year-olds firmly believe that Santa Claus is real, a belief reinforced every Christmas. However, around the age of 7, they must re-evaluate their understanding of Santa and come to terms with the reality that their parents and family are the ones bringing them presents. As we grow, it may be wise to regularly reassess our beliefs, these little apps installed in our operating system that influence how we navigate through life. Here's a guide to get that mental reboot. Identify the beliefs. First, dig deep to uncover what those sneaky limiting beliefs are. Ask yourself questions like, what do I believe about myself that holds me back? Or where do I doubt my capabilities? Write them down, so they're out in the open. Try to write down as many limiting beliefs as possible. At first, you might come up with just a few, but then it's normal to hit a block and start adding random thoughts. But keep going. By pushing through, you'll reach a moment of inspiration, surprising yourself with insights that seem to come out of nowhere. It's like tapping into something you've always known deep down but couldn't quite articulate until now. Now, it's time to choose your top 3 worst limiting beliefs. I remember when I first tried this exercise, I had so many limiting beliefs, it felt more practical to make a top 10. But by narrowing it down to just 3, it becomes easier to focus and tackle them head-on. Once you've freed yourself from those 3, you can create a new top 3 and keep going. A good analogy for these beliefs is like going for a walk while carrying a backpack and bags filled with heavy rocks. Not exactly the kind of stroll you'd enjoy, right? Imagine all your friends casually walking alongside you, dressed comfortably, while you struggle with these burdens. You try to stay in a good mood, but suddenly, one of your bags breaks open, and you're left with less weight to carry. You feel immediate relief, and before you know it, the second bag tears and more weight falls away. Then, one of your friends turns to you and asks, "Why are you still carrying that backpack full of rocks?" You pause, not knowing what to say. "It's always been like this," you mutter. But then, you realize that's a great question. So, you let the backpack drop from your shoulders, feeling an overwhelming sense of freedom. Now, just imagine the immense joy of living without these limiting beliefs. To experience that, start with the list I mentioned at the beginning of this chapter. That's your first step toward freeing yourself from the weight you've been carrying for far too long. Challenge the beliefs. Now, it's time to play lawyer. Question the validity of each belief. Where did this belief come from? Is it based on facts, or just fears and assumptions? Most limiting beliefs fall apart under scrutiny. One of my favorite ways of doing this is to imagine that someone else is holding this belief. I picture a person I've just met, someone I've only had brief interactions with, but who has revealed enough for me to notice the limiting belief that I'm trying to remove from myself. Why shift my limiting belief to an imaginary character? Because no one likes to be judged. By assigning my limiting belief to this fictional person, I can detach myself emotionally from the problem, which allows me to be more objective. Once I observe this person's behavior and thought patterns, I write down why their way of thinking is flawed and what problems it brings into their life. This process of analyzing their beliefs helps me question the validity of each belief and recognize the harm it's causing. Replace them with empowering beliefs. Swap those limiting beliefs with positive, empowering ones. Instead of "I'm not smart enough," try "I can learn and grow in any situation." Make sure your new beliefs are realistic and actionable, not just fluffy affirmations. I continue my imagination exercise by coming up with new ways of thinking that will rescue my imaginary friend from their misery. This part becomes easier because, let's face it, who doesn't want to wear the shining armor of the savior, especially when it involves solving a problem that you know all too well but has been affecting poor imaginary Joe Doe so badly. However, before adopting these new beliefs as absolute truths, it's crucial to check if they are realistic. A pragmatic approach is to have a role model, someone you know and respect. Try to mimic their behavior or, if possible, ask their advice for a friend who has this problem. By seeking guidance from people you admire, you greatly increase your chances of becoming more like them. The same principle applies to bad advice. If you take advice from people who have failed in life but pretend to know what they're talking about because they claim to have learned from their mistakes, be cautious. More often than not, they haven't truly learned. If you follow the path of someone whose life you don't admire, you risk failing in the same way they did. So, choose your sources of wisdom wisely. Also, mentally stamp those limiting beliefs with a never again label. Why never again? Because your subconscious mind can't process negations. If you say, "I'm not going to do that," your subconscious only hears, "I'm going to do that." But when you use the phrase never again, your subconscious mind associates it with finality, while your conscious mind knows exactly what it means: it's never going to happen. A conversation at the crossroads of change. After years of feeling stuck in her career, Sarah finally decided to attend a self-development workshop. She sat in the back of the room, watching the speaker, Greg, introduce the day's topic, overcoming limiting beliefs. Everyone seemed so eager to learn, but Sarah wasn't fully convinced. During a break, Sarah and Greg found themselves at the coffee station. "Do you really think limiting beliefs are that big of a deal?" Sarah asked, stirring her tea. Greg smirked, sensing an opportunity. "Oh, absolutely. Limiting beliefs are fantastic," he said, with exaggerated enthusiasm. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Fantastic? Of course. Who wouldn't love a mental roadblock that keeps you from reaching your potential?" Greg said, leaning in mock seriously. "They're like that clingy friend who insists you stay home instead of chasing your dreams, constantly reminding you that you're not good enough. Plus, they save you all the hassle of trying new things or experiencing personal growth. Why bother with success when you can just settle for mediocrity? Truly, a gift to anyone who enjoys stagnation," he added with a wink. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. Okay, point taken. The beauty of sarcasm never ceases to amaze me," she said, shaking her head. "But, setting all jokes aside, how do you actually overcome them?" "Well, that's the real challenge, isn't it? Greg replied, "Now serious. You have to identify those beliefs, challenge them, and replace them with empowering thoughts. And when you catch yourself falling back into old patterns, mentally slap a never again label on those beliefs." The funny thing is, your subconscious can't process negatives, so if you just say, "I'm not going to do this," your brain ignores the not. But if you say never again, both your subconscious and conscious mind know that it's a done deal. You're cutting that belief off for good. Sarah nodded, intrigued. Never again, huh? That sounds final. Greg smiled. Exactly. Because when is never again happening? Never. Take action. Nothing breaks a limiting belief like action. Start taking steps toward your goals, even if they're small. Prove to yourself that your limiting beliefs were wrong by actively pushing through them. To break free from limiting beliefs, start by breaking your big goals into tiny, manageable tasks. Even the smallest step forward, like practicing a skill for just 5 minutes, creates momentum. These small wins build your confidence and gradually dismantle the limiting beliefs that have held you back, proving that progress is not only possible but also attainable. Keep a record of your achievements, no matter how insignificant they may seem. Documenting your progress, whether on paper or in an app, reinforces the strides you're making. Over time, this visual evidence helps weaken the grip of your limiting beliefs as you gather proof that contradicts them. Taking action often requires stepping out of your comfort zone, and it's essential to recognize that discomfort is part of the growth process. Embrace the fact that true growth comes from doing what scares you. Not every action will lead to immediate success, and that's perfectly okay. Treat each step as an experiment, and be open to adjusting your approach based on the feedback you receive. Finally, don't wait for fear to dissipate before taking action. Fear is likely to linger until you've demonstrated to yourself that there's nothing to fear. Remember, the action itself is often the antidote to fear. When you take steps toward your goals, you'll discover that many of your worst-case scenarios are highly unlikely and, in many cases, completely unfounded. By consistently pushing through fear and discomfort, you'll pave the way for lasting change and a newfound sense of empowerment. Use failure as a tool for growth. Instead of allowing setbacks to reinforce limiting beliefs, treat them as valuable opportunities to learn. Each failure gets you one step closer to success because we learn from our mistakes. If I do something and make no mistakes, I've learned nothing. However, if I make mistakes and manage to fix them to achieve the desired result, then I've made real progress. I remember a little story about a factory where the shift leader, Sam, was having an inspection. The inspector reviewed the documents and asked, "Who made this mistake?" Sam replied, "That was John, the leader of the other shift." "Aha," said the inspector. 15 minutes later, he discovered another mistake. "What about this one? Who is responsible?" Sam responded, "John again." 30 minutes later, the inspector asked, "And what about this mistake? Who's responsible for this one?" Sam replied, "That one? That's John's fault too." The inspector raised an eyebrow and said, "So what you're saying is that the only shift leader in this factory who works, rather than just pretending to work, is John." Visualize success. Use the power of visualization to picture yourself succeeding in situations where limiting beliefs once held you back. This helps rewire your brain to associate positive outcomes with new ways of thinking. Probably the best technique in this scenario is the Silver Method. In the Silver Method, visualization is a powerful tool to reshape limiting beliefs and create positive outcomes. One specific technique they use is called the mental screen. Here's how it works. First, find a quiet space, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths to enter a relaxed, meditative state. Once you're calm, imagine a large, mover-like screen in front of you. On this screen, picture a situation where a limiting belief used to hold you back. Let's say you've always believed you're terrible at public speaking. Now, visualize yourself in that scenario, but this time, see yourself confidently speaking in front of a large audience. Imagine every detail, your clear voice, the positive reactions from the audience, and the sense of pride and success you feel afterwards. Make the colors bright, the sounds vivid, and engage all your senses. By repeatedly playing this movie of yourself succeeding in your mind, your brain starts to associate this positive outcome with the situation. The limiting belief, "I'm terrible at public speaking," gradually gets replaced by an empowering one, "I'm confident and effective when speaking in public," rewiring your brain to expect success instead of fear. In the Silver Method, this practice of using vivid, sensory-rich visualization helps shift your subconscious mind, making it easier to break free from old, limiting beliefs. Practice consistency. Reprogramming your brain isn't a one-time thing. It requires repetition. Daily affirmations, visualization, and consistent action help solidify those new neural pathways. All in a nutshell, discipline. You may ask yourself how to keep your motivation. Let's begin with the definition of motivation, and then let's identify why it is hard to keep. Motivation is the internal drive or external influence that compels an individual to take action toward achieving a goal or fulfilling a need. It is a psychological phenomenon that initiates, guides, and sustains goal-oriented behaviors. Here are a few key points to consider about motivation. Types of motivation. Intrinsic motivation. This comes from within an individual. It is driven by personal satisfaction, enjoyment, or the desire to achieve a goal for its own sake. For example, someone might read a book because they enjoy learning, not for any external reward. Extrinsic motivation. This is driven by external factors, such as rewards or recognition. For instance, a person may work hard to earn a promotion or praise from others. Factors influencing motivation. Goals. Clear, achievable goals can enhance motivation by providing a sense of direction and purpose. Expectancy. If individuals believe that their efforts will lead to desired outcomes, they are more likely to be motivated to act. Value. The perceived value of achieving a goal can impact motivation. If the outcome is seen as worthwhile, individuals are more likely to be motivated to pursue it. Social support. Encouragement from friends, family, or mentors can boost motivation and help individuals stay committed to their goals. The role of emotion. Emotions play a significant role in motivation. Positive emotions can enhance motivation, while negative emotions can hinder it. Theories of motivation. Various psychological theories explain motivation, including Maslow's hierarchy of needs, suggests that people are motivated by a hierarchy of needs, from basic physiological needs to self-actualization. Self-determination theory focuses on the importance of autonomy, competence, and relatedness in fostering intrinsic motivation. Motivation is just a mood. It is clear that motivation is essential for personal growth, achievement, and overall well-being. It drives individuals to overcome challenges, persist in the face of setbacks, and ultimately reach their goals. On the other hand, after reading about motivation, we found out that motivation is a positive emotion that depends on so many factors, some internal but most of them external. If it is to oversimplify, motivation is a mood. And one thing that we can say about moods is that they are not persistent, they are continuously changing. What is the solution then? We know that we will lose the motivation sooner or later. So what shall we do? Sitting around and adopting a victim mentality? This won't get us too far. Discipline is the way. Discipline is the practice of training oneself to act in accordance with rules or a code of behavior, often characterized by self-control, orderliness, and a commitment to achieve specific goals. It involves the ability to maintain focus and adhere to a set of principles, despite distractions, temptations, or challenges. Key aspects of the discipline. Self-control. Discipline requires the ability to regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in order to achieve long-term objectives rather than yielding to immediate gratification or impulses. Consistency. It involves regular and sustained effort toward a goal. Discipline is not just about making a one-time effort. It's about establishing habits and routines that support ongoing progress. Commitment. Discipline entails a strong commitment to goals, often requiring sacrifices and the willingness to put in the necessary effort to overcome obstacles. Focus. Staying disciplined means keeping your attention on your goals and not getting sidetracked by distractions. It requires prioritizing tasks and making conscious choices that align with your objectives. Resilience. Discipline also involves the ability to bounce back from setbacks and maintain determination even when faced with challenges. It's about learning from mistakes and continuing to push forward. Goal-oriented behavior. Discipline is often linked to the pursuit of specific goals, whether personal, professional, or academic. It helps individuals create structured plans and work systematically toward achieving these goals. Mental and emotional strength. Developing discipline contributes to building mental and emotional resilience, helping individuals navigate difficulties and maintain motivation in the face of adversity. Time management. Discipline is closely related to effective time management, allowing individuals to allocate their time wisely and prioritize tasks that contribute to their long-term success. Mike Tyson is often regarded as one of the most iconic and dominant boxers in history, and I was lucky to hear his definition of discipline. Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but do it like you love it. Without discipline, you're nothing because you give up on the slightest struggle. See on YouTube. Simply search Mike Tyson discipline. In summary, discipline is a crucial trait for achieving personal and professional success. It empowers individuals to stay focused, committed, and resilient in the pursuit of their goals, leading to greater fulfillment and accomplishment. If you show discipline, you'll gradually weaken old limiting beliefs and strengthen new, productive thought patterns. Chapter 2. Burn the ship. Anxiety can often lead us to develop unhealthy coping mechanisms, like avoidance, isolation, or even substance use, as we seek temporary relief from stressful situations. However, the key to overcoming these challenges lies in developing healthier strategies to face and manage stress more effectively. Take John, for example. He had always been a high achiever, but after a series of setbacks at work, his anxiety grew to the point where it was affecting every part of his life. He found himself avoiding difficult tasks, isolating himself from friends and family, and, on more than one occasion, turning to alcohol to quiet his racing thoughts. One day, he realized that his approach wasn't helping him. It was only making things worse. John decided to change how he handled his anxiety, committing to healthier coping strategies. He started by breaking down his overwhelming work problems into smaller, manageable tasks. Instead of being paralyzed by the enormity of what he had to do, he created a step-by-step plan, tackling one thing at a time. This simple act of problem-solving reduced his anxiety and gave him a sense of control. When negative thoughts crept in, like "I'm never going to succeed," he replaced them with positive self-talk. "I've faced challenges before and overcome them," he would remind himself. "I can handle this too, one step at a time." These affirmations helped shift his mindset from fear of failure to a belief in his ability to grow. Finally, when his anxiety became overwhelming, John practiced grounding techniques. He would pause, take a few deep breaths, and focus on his surroundings, the warmth of the sun on his face, the sounds of birds nearby, or the feel of his hands resting on his desk. These moments of mindfulness help him stay present, reducing the panic that used to take over. Through this journey, John realized he had to adopt a burn-the-ships mentality. There was no retreat. Just like the historical story of warriors burning their ships to ensure there was no option but to move forward and conquer, John resolved that there was no going back to unhealthy habits. He was taking the island, his life, his career, his mental health, by committing fully to healthier ways of coping. This shift didn't happen overnight, and there were setbacks along the way. But by developing these healthier coping strategies, John gradually reclaimed control over his life, proving that with the right mindset and tools, anxiety doesn't have to hold us back. Chapter 3. The Body, the Mirror of the Soul. The Poison. The body is a reflection of what's happening inside. It mirrors your emotions, thoughts, and mental state. What you tell yourself, consciously or unconsciously, becomes visible on the outside. This internal dialogue can either poison you or serve as the elixir that revitalizes your life. I learned this lesson the hard way during a particularly challenging period in my career. I was working in a toxic environment, surrounded by colleagues who thrived on competition, backstabbing, and manipulation. It wasn't just the atmosphere that was draining, the workload was relentless. Overtime had become a regular part of my life, and I found myself constantly going above and beyond, hoping that my efforts would be recognized. But no matter how hard I worked or how well I performed, my contributions were never acknowledged. Instead, the credit for my hard work was given to another colleague. The reason? His wife was friends with the manager. It didn't matter how much I gave, my efforts seemed invisible, as if I didn't exist. I felt trapped, suffocated by the unfairness of it all. Day by day, my energy drained. I was exhausted, emotionally and physically, feeling like I was reaching the end of my strength. My mind became a storm of self-doubt. Why am I even bothering? I'd think. No matter what I do, it's never enough. These toxic thoughts began to take a toll on my body. I could see it in the mirror. Dark circles under my eyes, a permanent frown etched into my face, and my posture slumped with the weight of frustration and stress. I felt old, tired, and defeated. The elixir. Then, something shifted. I made the difficult decision to leave that job and seek out something better. I found a new position, one where I was valued, respected, and actually enjoyed going to work every day. It wasn't an immediate transformation, but over time, I noticed a change in how I felt. For the first time in a long time, I felt energized, hopeful, and lighter, as if a burden had been lifted off my shoulders. Almost 2 years later, I decided to meet up with Paul, an old friend I hadn't seen in ages. During those years at my toxic job, I had lost touch with people like him, too consumed by my workload and stress to maintain friendships. So, when we sat down for coffee, I was both excited and nervous to catch up. As soon as Paul saw me, he paused, his eyes widening in surprise. "Wow," he said, shaking his head with a smile. "You look like you've gotten younger. What's your secret?" I laughed, but his comment struck a chord. I hadn't realized just how much I had changed, inside and out. The stress, the negativity, the sense of being undervalued, it had all aged me and drained me of my vitality. But now, with a job I loved and a healthier work-life balance, it was like life had returned to me. I didn't just feel better, I looked at it too. That encounter with Paul made me realize how much our external appearance reflects our internal state. When I was trapped in a negative environment, I wore that stress on my body. My energy was depleted, my posture tense, my face marked with anxiety. But as I made healthier choices for myself, starting with leaving that toxic workplace, my mind and body began to heal. The weight lifted, my confidence returned, and my outlook on life brightened. My body reflected that transformation. In the end, Paul's comment wasn't just a compliment. It was a reminder of how much power our inner thoughts and beliefs hold. The body is indeed a mirror of what's happening inside. What we tell ourselves, how we treat ourselves, and the environments we allow ourselves to remain in all shape the way we look and feel. Toxic environments and thoughts poison us, but positive change can be the antidote that revitalized our body, mind, and spirit. Chapter 4. Fear kills hope, hope kills fear. Choose your goal. Fear has a way of stifling hope, while hope can extinguish fear. True success comes when we learn to remove negative emotions from our lives, and one of the most effective strategies for doing so is by setting clear goals. But how many goals should you have, and how do you find the right ones? More importantly, how do you know if you're pursuing the right goals for yourself? A powerful method for clarity is to write down your goals. To make this process more manageable, consider categorizing them. You might have 3 main areas: career goals, family goals, and personal or leisure goals. Aim to write at least 8 goals for each category, then choose 1 or 2 from each that resonate most deeply with you. This practice can significantly enhance your life's trajectory. For instance, you might decide to take a course that will help you become a specialist within your company, paving the way for future promotions. Or perhaps you commit to going for a daily walk with your spouse, enhancing your fitness and nurturing your connection with each other. You could even choose to learn how to paint miniature models of aeroplanes and tanks as a creative outlet to recharge your batteries. No matter the choice, the act of setting these goals can only bring you positive outcomes. The secret of staying young. If you observe older individuals, you'll notice that many without clear goals in life often appear worn down and unfulfilled in their senior years. It's striking how someone in their early 60s can look as if they've aged into their 90s, lacking aspirations that inspire feelings of greatness. These individuals may spend their time escaping reality through drugs, alcohol, or other vices, leading to a decline in both spirit and health. Conversely, you'll encounter elderly gentlemen in their mid-80s, taking leisurely Sunday afternoon strolls with their wives or dining together in charming restaurants. They radiate vitality, purpose, and a sparkle in their eyes that reflects a life well lived. Their calm, friendly demeanor emanates a vibe that only those with a clear sense of purpose possess. It's impossible to be in their presence without recognizing that these individuals were once remarkable figures in their prime. These are the people who dared to hope, who did their best, and who continually aspired to be better. They embody the spirit of resilience and fulfillment, contrasting sharply with those who never found the courage to dream. Embracing hope and setting meaningful goals can transform your life and lead you to a more vibrant, purposeful existence. Chapter 5. Harnessing Mindfulness to Combat Anxiety. In a world filled with stress and uncertainty, mindfulness practices like meditation and deep breathing have emerged as powerful tools for reducing anxiety. Scientific studies confirm that these practices can fundamentally alter the brain's response to stress, enhancing emotional regulation and overall well-being. When anxiety strikes, it often drags us into a cycle of worrying about the future or ruminating on the past. Mindfulness serves as a lifeline, grounding us in the present moment. The more we engage in these practices, the better equipped we become to face anxiety with calm awareness rather than panic. Body scan from the Silver method. One effective mindfulness exercise is the body scan from the Silver method. To begin, find a comfortable position, close your eyes and envision a peaceful place, perhaps a serene forest, a calming beach, or a cozy room. Engage all your senses. What do you see? What sounds are present? What do you feel? Allow this vivid imagery to soothe your anxious mind, immersing yourself in this tranquil space for a few minutes. Visualize the air you breathe as a source of energy, filling each part of your body with calmness and vitality. Start by bringing your awareness down gradually from your forehead to your toes, noticing any sensations, tension, or areas of relaxation. This will put your body in a state of deep relaxation. If you reverse the process and start scanning from your toes to your forehead, it will enhance your energy levels. This gentle practice will help you relax or enhance your energy, so choose the one that serves you better the moment you decide to do the scan. Square box breathing. In addition to body scanning, deep breathing techniques can effectively manage anxiety. One popular method is the square box breathing technique, often utilized by special forces to regulate emotions under pressure. Find a quiet space, either sitting or lying down. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4, hold your breath for another count of 4, then exhale through your mouth for a count of 4. Repeat this cycle several times, paying close attention to the rise and fall of your breath. This rhythmic breathing helps anchor you in the present and calms your mind. Navy SEALs 4-7-8 breathing method. Another powerful technique is the 4-7-8 breathing method, favored by Navy SEALs and other elite military units. To practice this technique, inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7, then exhale completely through your mouth, making a whoosh sound for a count of 8. This cycle can be repeated several times, activating your parasympathetic nervous system and promoting relaxation. For those looking to delve deeper into mindfulness, I highly recommend the Silver method for guided meditation. Incorporating these mindfulness techniques into your daily routine can profoundly transform your relationship with anxiety, allowing you to reclaim control over your thoughts and emotions. By practicing mindful awareness, you can break free from the cycles of fear and worry, paving the way for a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Chapter 6. The most desired feeling is a scam. What is happiness? What is happiness, and why do we all desperately crave it? If you ask 1,000 people what happiness is, you'll get 1,000 different answers. In most cases, their responses will be vague or confusing. People often repeat things they've heard before without fully understanding them, and then add their own subjective desires to the mix. Recent studies suggest that happiness is an inferior state of joy. It's inferior because it's conditional, a temporary state of joy that's dependent on external factors. I'll be happy if I get that car. I'll be happy if I date that person. I'll feel happy if I get that job, those friends, or that amount of money. The amusing part comes when you actually get that car, and feel a surge of joy when you first sit inside. Then, you take it for a drive, thinking, I'm driving the car of my dreams. You feel exhilarated, for about 5 minutes. That's it. The intensity of the feeling starts to fade. Sure, you still enjoy having the new car, but soon enough, it becomes just another vehicle. The excitement you once had disappears, and you're back where you started. What is joy? Joy, on the other hand, is different. Picture a home where kids are laughing, smiling, and singing. A place where the son tells his father, I don't know why, but I just feel so happy. The father responds, that feeling is joy. When you wake up and everything is just as it always is, yet you feel that happiness without needing anything new, that's joy. It's a feeling that comes from living a good life, in a loving environment, without needing external rewards or stimulants. Joy flourishes in a stable environment where people care for one another, rather than chasing the flashy things we see in advertisements. It grows where people have a purpose. Unlike happiness, joy doesn't fade with time. It's a deeper, more enduring state of well-being. Chapter 7. An inspiring idea. You can use Napoleon Hill's idea. Anything that the human mind can conceive and believe, the human mind can achieve. This will help you overcome anxiety by shifting your focus from fear and doubt to empowerment and possibility. Here's how. Imagine yourself sitting down at your desk with a blank sheet of paper in front of you, ready to write. But this time, you're not writing to someone else, you're writing to yourself. It's a letter of gratitude and self-recognition, where you acknowledge the things you're proud of. As you put pen to paper, you begin thanking yourself for your achievements, big and small. The things you've overcome, the milestones you've reached. This letter is a mirror of your character, reflecting the best parts of yourself, the qualities that have shaped who you are today. The story of becoming. To write this story, you must shift your focus. Just as you did when writing letters to Santa as a child, listing the gifts you wanted, you now need to write about the person you aspire to become. You describe, with intention, how you want to grow, the habits you wish to adopt, and the qualities you want to embody. You write down your goals and your aspirations, visualizing a version of yourself a year from now, confident, focused, and successful. This process isn't just a simple exercise in writing. It is a powerful way to connect with your subconscious mind, the part of you that operates beneath your conscious thoughts, influencing your actions and decisions. When you clearly define who you want to be and what you want to achieve, your subconscious mind takes note. Just like when you were a child believing Santa would deliver, your mind starts believing that you are becoming the person you've described. As you repeat this process and align your thoughts with your desired future, your subconscious begins to work behind the scenes. It starts to shift your behaviors and guide your actions toward that vision. The key lies in the faith you place in this process and the actions you take. Your belief, paired with consistent effort, activates your subconscious to help you reach your goals, almost like an unseen force gently guiding you. This technique works because the subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between reality and imagination. When you vividly picture your future self, your subconscious believes it's possible and sets out to help you make it real. The hardest part for anyone is finding their purpose, but through this process of gratitude, visualization, and belief, you can unlock the power of your mind to not only find your purpose but also guide you toward achieving it. Your mind, with clear direction and faith in the process, becomes the vehicle that will take you exactly where you want to go. Chapter 8. The Backwards Game. Many anxious individuals tend to catastrophize, assuming the worst possible outcome will occur, which leads to unpleasant feelings of anxiety. Let's play a game. Envision a journey from point A, representing a state of peace, to point B, symbolizing catastrophizing. Moving from A to B results in anxiety, while traveling from B back to A brings you back to a peaceful state of mind. This leads us to the game called the backwards game. This method is commonly referred to as backward design or backward planning. This strategy is used by famous writers, politicians, and inventors. Imagine that everything is exactly as you want it to be, within a realistic scenario, of course. For instance, instead of envisioning an unrealistic windfall of millions of pounds, dollars, or euros while earning minimum wage, consider setting your sights on a promotion or a better job. Now, picture yourself having achieved that promotion. Describe how you got there, starting with the last steps you took until the first. Once you identify the steps you took, start applying them in real life to work towards that goal. Think of it like being in a 3D game. If you enjoy gaming, this will make it even more fun. And speaking of video games, I have a cheat code to make this game even more engaging. We know that catastrophizing leads to anxiety, so let's flip the script. Instead, focus on what could go right. Not only do you need to describe a scenario where everything is okay and how you reach that point, but you must also concentrate solely on positive possibilities and dismiss any negative thoughts that arise to disrupt the game. In short, if everything were to turn out exactly as I want, how would I get there? Always think about what could go right.